Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sugar Pills, a practical guide to self care. As always, I'm your host, Candy Washington, and I cannot wait to help you lead a more joyful life. So, before we dive into today's episode, which will be a very enlightening conversation with RJ Hodge, be sure to check out all of the courses we have down below. If you need more support on your self love and self care journey, we have the Art of Self Love Masterclass, the More Than Enough class, and the Create Your Dream Life course as well. We also have our journey to self love journal, you guys. Be sure to go ahead and pick that up. It's a great companion piece. And as always, be sure to share this with a friend because your journey to self love and self worth is always better with a little bit of support. So, with that, let's welcome RJ. So, RJ is very inspirational. He is an inspirational speaker, an entrepreneur, a business and personal development life coach, and he also is a certified practitioner in the healing art of Reiki. I think I always say Reiki, Reiki correct, like Reiki energy. And he's also a best-selling author as well. And we'll get into talking about his books and one that he also co-authored with Lace Brown and George Fraser. So welcome, RJ.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So do you want to tell us just a little bit more about yourself and how did you get on this journey of self-care and then also being able to teach that to other people?
I had to hit the bottom. I think that was the
Yeah.
that was the best way to get there. Um, as you heard in my bio, I'm pretty ambitious. I've kind of always have been, and I fell into this mode of I gotta reach these goals, and I started to adopt all of those things, like sleep when you're dead, and it
Mm,
all really just equated to not taking care of myself. And even though things were happening and the success was coming, I was feeling more and more depleted at all times. I would be able to coach clients and I would be able to do some speaking engagements, but when I come home, I'm like, what is this just empty feeling?
mhm.
And, over time, I thought that was normal, though. That's unfortunate. I thought it was normal. I thought that was a part of success, that was a part of building a business. And I started to find out that what I was really doing was I was sacrificing myself in order to accomplish these other things. And I really just had to change my mentality. And then what I started noticing was most of my one-on-one coaching clients, they were in the same position because you attract what you are. So I was attracting people that were in the exact same position. Either they were entrepreneurs or professionals, and they would just burn out. And I started to kind of go on this journey of, can you be successful? Can you achieve at a high level? Can you take care of the people that are around you that you love without sacrificing yourself? And took a while, but I finally figured out that yes, you can. And ever since I figured that out, I've been really on this whole journey of coaching and helping entrepreneurs and working moms. And I'll kind of tell you how that came about because that
Yeah.
doesn't seem to coincide with me a whole lot, but it really does. But helping those people still achieve at a high level, still take care of the people that they love, but make sure that they learn to take care of themselves in the process.
I love that. And what came up for me when you were talking about, you would get the goals and you've had all this ambition and then you would still kind of feel empty and depleted at the end of the day and not fulfilled. To me, like I used to struggle with being really codependent. But
Mhm.
it wasn't so much that I wanted to get the goals and I got the goals and I felt depleted because I wasn't taking care of myself. It was
Mhm.
more because I was getting my value and my worth out of what I was doing.
Yeah.
And so because if I got the client, got the money, got this, did this, then I would be worthy of love. Then I would be worthy of success. Then I would be, quote, good enough. And so
Mhm.
that was actually the root cause of the burnout and of the hollowness and of not being fulfilled because I was chasing how I felt about me outside of me. So then
Right.
when I switched it to I'm worthy, I'm enough, I'm valuable simply because I'm here and everything else is just a reflection of that. I want these
Mhm.
goals because I'm worthy of them, not I want these goals in order to be worthy of them, right? It's like, oh,
Right.
if I
Right.
get the money, then that means I'm good enough, right? I have to have this to be good enough. I have to write the
Mhm.
book to be good enough. But it's like, no. I'm already good enough. Therefore, I deserve the money. I deserve the book. I deserve the clients. I deserve this, 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 and this, and this. So
Right.
to me, that was really what the shift was. So what was your shift for realizing, you can be, quote, successful externally with all of the things without sacrificing yourself? What was that blueprint for you?
Well, I've always been a spiritual person. I've always been somebody that, I said I believe in this higher power. I believe that things are working out on my behalf. So what I realized is that the reason I pushed myself so hard, even beyond what my inner peace was saying, don't go that far, I understood that it was all fear.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't believe spiritually like I thought I did, because the fear was, if I don't keep pushing, if I don't do this one more thing, if I don't sacrifice just one more, if I don't, I can't take care, I can't go there, I can't take care of myself, I got to do this. The fear was that it's not going to happen,
Right.
and I had to stare that in the face and say, if I really believe spiritually that things are always working out on my behalf, then I have to learn how to rest in that. And that took me actually, I teach a whole course on it, but it took me actually being able to recognize when I'm doing something and start to recognize you're tired or you're done with this, but you're pushing yourself because you're scared. You're scared
Mm-hmm.
if you don't, then it's not going to manifest. So it started with me start to check myself of the fear. And honestly, once I got grounded and rooted in the fear of, you know what, it's going to work out on my behalf anyway, because like you said, I'm worthy of it.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it. I don't doubt it. And when I got rooted in that, it was easier to go to bed at night, to say the least.
Absolutely. And I also love that you brought up the spirituality piece as well, because I think exactly what you're saying, it's the fear of, if I don't do it, it won't happen.
Mhm.
But the beauty of believing in like the divine or God or whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
that you're not actually doing it. God is doing it through you. And two,
Mhm.
you're not doing it alone. It's
Right.
not actually your strength. It's not actually, your sweat, blood, and tears. When you
Absolutely.
surrender to, this is what I want to happen, this is what I want to manifest, I can let go of control, which is an illusion.
Mhm.
I can let go of the how, which is not in my control, because again, it's
Right.
an illusion. And I can trust. I can
Absolutely.
trust that what I can do and how I show up is enough. And I'm going to surrender, that God can take care of the rest, the universe, or whatever people want to call it.
Right.
We're
Right.
all inclusive with all spirituality.
Absolutely.
To me personally, it's God.
Right.
God can take care of the rest. I
Mhm.
surrender to God, right? And I also love what you're saying. You believed in like a higher power, that that's working for your behalf. And I agree. I think the shift is when you say there's a higher power working on my behalf, but there's also a higher power that lives within me. My
Absolutely.
higher self, my divinity, your God self, the God that lives within you. And
Mhm.
then you can sleep at night and say, you know what? Because that's where the worthiness comes from. That's where the
Right.
good enough lovability is, that the divinity that lives within you, that's connected to God.
Absolutely.
It's not greater than God,
Right.
because
Right.
but it's of God. It's from God.
Absolutely.
Your divine that lives within you. That guiding system. And so you
Absolutely.
can trust, and so you can let go. So then you can really rest and repair and take care of yourself, because you know that getting it, quote, done actually isn't in your hands. It isn't
Right.
up to you.
Yeah.
You have to surrender to it. That's
Absolutely.
why you have some people who literally work themselves to death and they still don't have the, quote, goals they want. Or you
Right.
have people who work themselves to death and they have the, quote, goals they want, but yet they're miserable and they're not happy. So
Right.
what is even the point? It's really
True.
getting into that flow of, this is what I want. I already know I'm worthy of it. And I know that a greater power is already working on my behalf. So I'm allowed to rest and relax.
Absolutely.
Love
Absolutely.
that. Love that.
And it takes practice. I
Yeah.
always say, like, when I do podcasts or when I'm talking to people, it always sounds like, okay, great, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna rest in it and everything is gonna be
Mhm.
okay. But I always want to give people the practical side of it. Takes practice. I literally, still to this day, I do this day in and day out, and I'm not gonna ever say that you actually arrive where you get it perfect. Every day is a new goal and a new level and a new, something to just go through, where you have to learn to rest in. I don't understand that,
Mhm.
but I believe that, again, it's going to work out in my favor. It's going to work out, you know. And yesterday, a perfect example, I was doing a coaching session and I got a phone, oh, I got a text. And then I got off of the coaching session and I had to get back on. And I found out that my aunt passed away, like right in that moment.
Oh, I'm
But I
so
had to go back to
sorry.
the coaching session though. And it was
Right.
amazing. Like I wanted to stop, but that was another practice moment of, I don't believe that I'm really coaching this person. I believe that I'm
Right.
being used as a vessel to send a message to this person. And if I really believe that, then even though my emotions are raging, I can calm that and trust in the fact that something is going to come through me. And the rest of that coaching session was probably one of the best sessions I've ever done because
Right.
I was able to yield in that moment. And again, it takes quite a bit of practice, but getting to that point to where you have that level of trust and you're not always worried, you're not always fearful about
Mhm.
what's next, and you're not always what ifing, it changes everything about how you see yourself and how you take care of yourself.
100%. And I agree. It's also cultivating a mindset and a lifestyle of just like emotional intelligence, right? Is really what you're talking about, where you can say, hey, I understand that right now my emotions are here, but I can
Mhm,
put that in I can compartmentalize that and put it over here. I know I'm going to deal with it. And then I can, step into my power of presence of what I actually need to focus on in this moment is my client being the vessel,
mhm,
for the divine to work through to talk to the client, give them their message and give them their guidance. And then once I'm done there, then I can be present over here. But a lot of times when people they're not emotionally intelligent, or they're not, and that's like not disrespect or just wherever
right,
people are in their journeys. We've all have greater or lesser degrees of all types of intelligence, right?
right,
And we
mhm,
can always, like you said, practice and cultivate it, right? But if you're not
absolutely,
aware of it, then that's when you get scattered. That's when something happens and you break down and you get frazzled and you get thrown off course. It's almost like being like an athlete, right? You
mhm,
practice and you practice and you practice and you practice. So on game day, whatever is thrown at you, you like, I got this, I got this, I got this, I got this. It becomes like muscle memory because you've
absolutely.
practiced so much for it. And speaking of practicing, don't you have a book around this? Do you
It's
want to
funny
talk
because I thought
about
I
that?
thought that I was like, I wrote about practicing before.
Good little segue. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Practice is one of my favorite words because I don't, people say practice makes perfect. I think practice just makes it better. And like you said, it's that level of muscle memory. The more and more you do something, the better you get at it. But yeah, I
Yeah.
did write a book called "You Can't Practice at the Game." Subtitle is "The Art of Mastering You,"
Mhm.
Volume One, and that's really what the whole book is about. It's about how we don't do things day in and day out. We just kind of wait until the circumstance or the situation hits us, and then we try to react to it. And that's a problem all across the board, especially when you're talking about taking care of yourself, because a lot of times we wait until we hit the depressed state. We wait until, and I did it. I waited until I hit a level of burnout. And when I say a level of burnout, I mean waking up, and nobody believes this, but I will promise you, I could not move my body.
Yeah.
I don't know what, it felt like paralysis. I could not move my entire body. That's just how tired I was. But I
Yeah.
let it get to that point, unfortunately, before I said, okay, I can't go on this way. The
Right.
danger about that is that when you go so low, you never know if you'll ever fully rebound. Thank God I did. But I
Yes.
always try to encourage people, don't wait. Start practicing right now.
Yeah, and I agree. And I agree. I don't believe practice makes perfect. I believe practice makes you prepared. So
Hmm.
it prepares you for the good, but it also prepares you for the storm. It prepares you for the battle. It prepares you for when things don't work out so you don't get knocked off course. Practice makes you prepared. And it's like what Oprah said. I love Oprah.
How could you not,
Luck,
right? How could you
you're
not?
not, she's like, luck is preparation meeting opportunity. So it's like when you have that practice and it makes you prepared, when you get the opportunity, then things can happen great for you. Or if it's not the opportunity, it's the opposition, you can still meet it from that place of preparation. And I
Hmm.
also love how you're saying, don't wait until you hit rock bottom, don't wait until you get burned out. But that's maybe not unfortunately, but normally a
Hmm.
lot of people do have to get to that rock bottom,
Yeah.
which where it's like literally the last resort is learning to take care of yourself,
Right.
because we've been
Right.
doing everything but that. So when
Hmm.
the moment you hit rock bottom, the moment there's no other place to go, literally but up, it's like the last resort, which should have been, just like you said, our default. Our first result should be taking care of ourselves. That's what we should be doing in the first place. That maintenance of self-care, of self-love, of all of it, your mind, body, emotion, all of it, spirit. But
Right.
usually it takes us where the last resort is taking care
Hmm.
of ourselves, especially
Absolutely.
sometimes with mothers. So I know you all have a story about your mother and also how you help other working moms and stuff. So do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because I know a lot of mothers could definitely use this.
Yeah.
I'm not a
This
mom, but
right. This kind of found me. I was, as I was doing this work and working with clients, and I used to be a part of a holistic wellness center where I did personal development coaching sessions all day in person at
yeah.
our wellness center. And after I left there, just kind of searching of where I wanted to take my business next, I produced this course, overcoming being overwhelmed, refuel and recharge. And talking to a marketing person one day, they were like, "Well, who's your target audience?" And I was like, "Well, entrepreneurs and this and that." And as they were going through some of the stuff that I was saying, they were like, "There's a lot of you speak with a lot of women. Most of my clients are 95, 97%, women." And I
Yeah.
started to look at their profiles, and I was like, "Wow, she's a professional. She's a single mom, or she's a working mom." And I was like, "Why is that?" Because I was telling the marketing person, I can't market it that way. I can't market something to, single moms. Who am I? Like, I'm not a single mom, obviously. So I
You
was
could
pushing
still.
the.
That's a
I mean,
limiting belief, but I'll let you go. That's just a limiting
I could be
belief.
a I could be a single mom one day, right? But I was pushing it away. Like I can't, And the more I started to think about it, I thought about my own story because you're speaking to people that are just like you, and I was like, wow, that's it. I grew up with a single parent working mom.
Hmm.
That was my mom, and my mom was always, working, always trying to provide a better life for me, making sure that she had extra money to put me in activities so I didn't get caught up in the environment that we were in and all
Hmm.
of those type of things. But then when I thought back, I often saw her overwhelmed. I often saw her stressed out. I often saw her at that end. However, nobody was talking about self-care back then or therapy. All of those things were total foreign concepts. So
Yeah.
the only thing she knew was to keep going. And, eventually my mom developed disease within her body and she passed away a few months after my 20th birthday.
Oh,
And
so
when I
sorry.
started to look back on that, what I realized was that I can't prove that all of that stress and overwhelming and not properly caring for herself, I can't prove that caused the dis-ease in her body, but I know it didn't help,
Hmm.
and when I started to look at that, I was like, wow, I am the product of a working mom. I've
Yeah.
lived that. I can now hear all of the stories and all of the things that she would say, and I hear my clients saying the same thing. And I'm also an entrepreneur who became stressed out and overwhelmed and burnt out. So I kind of put those two together. And what I saw myself working with and what I was already doing is that I was working with working moms who were sacrificing their entire life and their entire being for either their kids or their business, also an entrepreneur. So I'm very passionate about that because I wish that this information or this type of information would have been available some 22 something years ago when my mom was still here and she
Hmm.
would have took advantage of it. So, my thing every day is I could be saving some young person's mother from burnout and potentially dis-ease and potentially leaving them too early.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm really happy you got over that self-limiting belief of,
Yeah, took a
who
while, took a
am I to,
minute.
of course, it's natural. Like, who am I to talk to this audience, but who are you not to?
True.
That's just a limiting belief that, just because you're a man, you can't speak to women. Like, there's a lot of men who speak to women,
Yeah,
and there's
I,
a
I
lot of
think I
women who
just didn't
speak
want
to
to come
men,
across because how they wanted to market it was like, a course for single mom. As I didn't want to come across as somebody that was
Mhm.
insensitive because obviously I don't take care of kids every single day, so I don't want to pretend I know what that's like.
Yeah.
But like you said, when I thought about it, I was attracting that for a reason, so I was really in the right place all along.
Yeah, because the funny thing is, you're like, who am I to talk to women, to single moms, but yet you were already doing it.
True.
So
Right.
you know what I mean? It's like
Right.
you were already
Just
doing
didn't
it.
market it like that, but
Yeah,
yeah,
you just
already
didn't.
doing it.
you just didn't have the clarity of like that's what you were already doing.
Right.
So it wasn't, so that to me is just that's really good nugget for people out there who have that same limiting belief of like, well, who am I to start a business? Who am I to coach someone? Who am I to think that I have value to add to this segment of people? When usually, if you have that seed in you, if you have your thought, just like you were doing, you're already doing it on
Mhm.
some type of level. And that's why that seed is even there. And then
True.
it's just getting clarity of, well, I'm already doing it and I'm the authority of me and I'm going to attract the right people. Some people might get it, some people might not. That's
Mhm.
okay. It's not for everyone, it's for the people that it's for. But as long as I
Absolutely.
stand in my power and as long as I know that, God, the divine, is going to work through me, then that's all I really need to know.
Very true.
And no
Very
matter
true.
what you do, you're going to have people who are totally for you. You're going to have people who are neutral, they don't care. And you're going
True.
to have people who don't like you and who are against you. And
Absolutely.
honestly, the two last groups are none of your business. The only
True.
people who are your business are the people that you serve.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely. Yeah.
that's
So I'm
really
glad I jumped that
I'm really
hurdle.
happy you did that. Yeah,
Glad
and
I
now
jumped that
look at
hurdle.
all of the value you're adding to people, the lives that you're saving, and the lives that you're changing, not just the mothers, but for the little kid that was the
Yeah.
sons and the daughters of those women. So
Absolutely.
it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And do you
Yeah.
want to talk about your other book, Mission Unstoppable?
Mission Unstoppable. It's
Yeah.
called Mission Unstoppable: Extraordinary Stories of Failures,
Woo!
Blessings. So pretty long title, but you know, my whole life is a testament of what God can do. This was a co-authored book with Les Brown, who is a world-renowned motivational speaker. We all know him and love him. And also George Frazier, who puts on the biggest networking conference in the country every year called Power Networking. And long story short, I was talking to somebody. I was writing my book, The Art of Mastering You, and I was talking to a friend, and he said, Les Brown and George Frazier are doing a co-authored book. You would be great for it. And I'm like, okay, but I thought it was a hypothetical. And his friend said, call this number and tell George I said you need to be a part of it. And I'm like, again, limiting beliefs. How is
Limiting
that gonna
beliefs.
work? I
Yeah.
don't know this person. And long
Why
story
me?
short, right. I called,
Mhm.
I made the phone call, we talked, told him about what I was doing, who I was, what I had going on, and I became a part of that book. But the book is about the things that we go through in life that, we call failure, but in all actuality, it's a blessing. It is the thing that propels you to the point that you're supposed to be. And, most people, if you've had any breakthroughs in your life, when you look back, you can look back and look at some of the things that you've gone through that seem like it was for nothing. Like, why was I there? And you'll notice that, oh, I was there because I picked up a certain skill that coincides with where I am today. Or you'll look back and you'll understand why that relationship didn't work, because that person wouldn't have been able to exist in this new realm that you're in. They wouldn't have been able to come with you. Not any slight to them, but that's just how it goes. And that's what it is about. It's about 35 different authors. We all came together and we're talking about our stories. And my story is me just literally feeling unworthy. I felt like that a good portion of my life. Like I said, not to paint a sad story, but my dad died when I was 7, my mom a few months after my 20th birthday, my sister at the age of 35. And I literally, one night, it was a Friday night in Atlanta, I was riding around the city. I'm 21 maybe, and I was just angry. And I don't know what pointed me in this direction, but I ended up in the back of a church chapel. This church, they used to do like corporate prayer, and they would let anybody in at like 11 p.m. at night. So, if you're 21 and it's a Friday night and you're in the back of a church chapel, something ain't going right. Because 21, you're usually out, you're partying or something. I was in the back of this church chapel, like crying and just praying because it felt like my whole world was gone. And what I got out of that was this statement called "Born to Win," and I didn't know what it meant. But for me at that time, it meant you're still worthy, you still have value, keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And some few years or so later, whereas I didn't, it was a good moment, but it still was a dark moment. I ended up starting my very first speaking company where I empowered youth. and we ended up branching off and going into the UK. And the name of that speaking company just so happened to be Born to Win. And
Hmm.
everything about what I got that night was incorporated into that speaking company. So that's the story that I tell a lot more in depth in that book, Mission Unstoppable. But it just goes back to, some of the darkest times, some of the things that we don't understand that we would call a dark moment or a failure. Those
Yep.
things are really the blessings in our lives that got us to where we needed to be.
No, 100%. And like you're saying, I don't know like how I got there. Well, it's like we were saying before, we're not in this alone.
True.
God led you there. And it's like when we get to that darkest moment where the rock bottom, like we were saying before, where it's like my last resort is taking care of myself, right?
Right.
So it's like when you get to that darkest moment where you're not even in control, not to sound cheesy, but did you ever see that thing where it was like footsteps on the beach,
Yeah.
and it was
Yeah.
like, God, this was my worst horrible time in my life, why
Right.
would you leave me? And it was like, no, child, that's when I carried you.
Absolutely.
And I think it's like that moment when it's like, I know it's not my strength, I have no strength, I'm at rock bottom, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm completely depleted, I'm just crying out. And it's like, that's when God carries us.
Mm-hmm.
So you were carried there. And I think that sometimes, even in those darkest moments of like failure or trauma or just feeling alone, the whole purpose of it is to remember that you're actually not alone.
Absolutely.
God is always with you,
Mm-hmm.
always.
Yeah.
And it's even though it's through those moments that He carries us, and you were carried there. And then
Yeah.
the message you got was, you're born to win. You were born worthy. You were born enough. You were born lovable. It's intrinsic and it's inherent. No one can give it, therefore, no one can take it. And it's
Absolutely.
always yours, no matter what, right? And
Yeah.
even during that darkest time, that is when He carries you.
Absolutely. And I think that's a good reminder for people, because I know people go through all types of stuff in all types of dark times, but to remember that it doesn't last long. And like you said, God is always carrying us, because I know in that dark moment, it can pollute the things that you see.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as you feel like that, sometimes if you're not reminded of that, you'll allow yourself to see an end when it should be just a comma and you're moving forward from that point. So I think that's a big thing, because I've had some moments to where I know I have faith, but this feels so real that it's hard to see beyond that. And that's why I'm such a proponent today of working with people and teaching people, start doing this work now, because I
Yes.
never want anybody to go so far down to the bottom that they don't recover, because we're seeing that now. We're seeing where
Yep.
unfortunately, people are committing suicide at a high
Yep.
rate, because they're falling to the bottom so low that their vision is blinded at that point, and they can't see that there's anything beyond this, and they do something that's absolutely drastic. So
Mm-hmm.
that's my biggest thing, is for people to slowly start understanding how to incorporate taking better care of yourself. Not just vacations, not just spa days, not just sand toes in the beach when you Google self-care, but the practical things of, how do I stop negative thoughts? How do I quiet my mind? How do I not overextend? How do I stop self-sabotage? Those real things that you need to incorporate daily. That's my whole life every single day.
100%. And like, some of those things are like meditating and
Mhm.
journaling, prayer. Prayer is huge, connecting to something bigger than you. And like, we talked about Oprah, she says that one of her, biggest prayers is just help. When you're
Yeah,
in that moment of darkness and you just feel hopeless, sometimes the most powerful thing you can just say is help. Even if you don't
absolutely.
know who you're asking or what you're asking, just say help. And I promise you that help will come. It
Hmm.
will. It will come. And I also think people shouldn't be afraid to seek support. If you are struggling or you're not sure, find a life coach, find a therapist, find a counselor, find a supportive community. Sometimes your family isn't the healthiest of families to turn to. Sometimes your current friend group is the problem. So find
True.
a chosen community that is actually supportive of you and cultivates you and can hold a safe space for you. Sometimes it might be a spiritual leader, maybe it's a pastor or a rabbi or
Right.
whatever preacher may be, maybe it's a therapist or a counselor or a mindset coach. but don't be afraid to ask for help. I think there used to be this stigma around taking care of yourself and getting support, like, oh, you crazy, just pray about
Right.
it. Yes, pray about it,
Mhm.
100%. God gives us prayer, that's a tool, but God also gives us people who have the ability to help and support us. If you want to, check on your bank account, you're going to call your bank teller. If you want to
Right.
work on your body, you're going to go, call a nutritionist or a personal trainer.
Mhm.
So if you want to work on your mindset, if you want a healthy mind, if you want to work on your emotional intelligence, if you want to work on, your consciousness and awareness, why not get help for that? If
Yeah.
you wanted to be a business owner, you're going to go get your MBA somewhere. Why? So if we seek support, help, and guidance in every other area of our life, if I'm sick, I'm going to go to the doctor. If I have a cough, if I break my arm, I'm going to go to
Mhm.
the dentist if I crack a tooth. If in every single area of our life we seek support from an expert, from someone who has education on it, to someone who has more experience and wisdom than we have on it, why would we not seek support when it comes to taking care of our spirit and our mind?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I
Two quick
mean?
things.
Yeah, go for it.
The first thing, I love that you said this, because if you watch videos and you see people talk about this topic, we often tell people, if you're going through something, go talk to somebody. And I'm glad you said it better. Don't just talk to somebody,
No.
because somebody might not be the person for you to talk to. And a
Yep.
lot of times, I think when people are going through things, we go straight to our peers. We go to people that are just like us, typically in the same or similar situation as us. And no disrespect, but I always tell people, if we're on the same level, the only thing we can do is balance each other out.
Yeah.
We can trade war stories, and you can relate to me and I can relate to you. But if you're where I am and you haven't gotten beyond that, you probably can't help me get beyond that. So, like you said, it's very key. Go to a therapist, find a qualified, coach, find somebody who has overcome in that particular area that you're working on. But don't just go talk to, your cousin who is in the
Mhm.
same spot that you're in, because yeah, it'll be a great venting session, but will you really learn anything of how to process that? So that's a great point, because I see so many people saying, yeah, go talk to somebody, and we typically will go talk to the most comfortable person that
Yeah.
is close by, which is somebody that's probably going through something, similar to us. And then the number two thing is something that I have to fight people on sometimes, and I always tell people, as much as we create financial budgets, right? We put all types of stuff in our budgets, vacations, our home, put a mental health, and I call it the you budget within
Hmm.
your budget.
Yeah.
Because if you notice within your budget, look at all the stuff you spent money on. Everybody's about to do their taxes soon. Look at all the stuff that you spent money on last year and
Yeah.
ask yourself, was any of that stuff for my personal development? Was it books? Was it courses? Was it therapy? Was it coaching? And if all of it was just vacations and shoes and clothes and cars and and don't get me wrong, love all of those things, but if it was
Yeah.
all those things and nothing that could work on your internal, then ask yourself, how are you going to get better? And I know a lot of times when it comes to coaching, I talk to people, I do consults, and they go, oh my God, I can't afford that. But I always say, go back and look at what you spent money on last year.
Yeah.
It's not that you can't afford it. You just didn't, number one, you didn't make it a priority enough. And then number two, you didn't actually financially budget for you. So that's
Hmm.
a point that I always want to make to people. This is the start of a new year. Make sure you have money in your budget, just like you have money for groceries and you have money for all. Make sure you have money for you, because just like you take care of your physical self, you have to take care of your mental, spiritual, and emotional self just the same.
Exactly. Like money is like time. People spend it where they want to.
Hmm.
Like, if somebody wants to make time for you, they will. But if
Absolutely.
they don't, they'll make an excuse.
Hmm.
And same thing with how people spend their money. Oh, I can't afford that, until you can afford it on something you want to. So it's making that shift of making your mental health and your personal development a priority. Because when you prioritize something, the time frees up and the money shows up.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's and like I said, I know it's not something that we're typically taught, but I always tell people how I always break it down. I always say, look at yourself in two different parts.
Okay.
On the one side of yourself is your physical self. And it's interesting how we unconsciously take care of our physical self. I don't care how busy you are, how many businesses you're running. At some point within a 24-hour period, you'll find food.
Right.
You will find food. I don't care if it's the worst, most terrible food you ever had in your life. You will find food because number one, your body craves it, you feel it, and you understand that it's a must, it's necessary. You'll find water, you'll find some way to hydrate yourself. But
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to this other side of ourselves, this mental, emotional, spiritual self, a lot of times we'll go days without nourishment.
Yeah.
We'll go days without properly taking care of that. The tricky part is that you don't often feel these symptoms on the mental, physical, and spiritual side as quick as you feel those physical symptoms, but those mental and emotional symptoms are stress. It's not feeling the way you're supposed to feel. Or I always say, if you just say I feel some kind of way, like nothing is wrong, you just feel blah. That means that you're probably malnourished on that side of yourself. So in that same light, I always tell people, make sure every single day, I create this parallel for my clients where when you're eating breakfast, what are you doing for your mental and emotional self? It could be listening to something inspirational, it could be
Mm-hmm.
reading something, or whatever the case may be. When you're, eating lunch, when you're doing these things, I try to get them to parallel when I'm doing something physical, what am I doing mental, so that you don't break this cycle of taking care of both sides of yourself.
Yeah, and I don't think it's that you don't feel it as quickly. I think it goes back to what we touched on earlier. It's normalized. It's
True.
normalized dysfunction of mind, body, and self. It's like,
Hmm.
oh, like just like you said, I just feel a type of way. You normalize it. Well, this is how I feel.
Right.
You normalize the stress. You normalize the busyness of the mind, and so since it's normal to you, you don't address it, even though it's still toxic and traumatizing and unhealthy, but it's
Right.
just what you normalize to yourself. So it's actually teaching yourself that the normalization of dysfunction isn't unhealthy and teaching your body a new normal, a healthier normal, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because a lot of times when you grow up in that dysfunction and chaos, it becomes normal to you.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then when you grow up, you attract that because that chaos, that trauma is what you thought was normal,
Yeah, yeah.
you
And people
know?
tell you it's normal. I
People
was
tell you
always
it's normal.
taught that stress is just a part of life. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like that.
Life
That's
is
what I was taught
hard.
growing up.
Life is stressful. You got to give
Right.
up stuff. You can't have this. And if you want that, you got to grind. You got to hustle. All of that mentality. I don't hustle. I don't grind. I flow. Uh-uh.
Yeah. I
I've been
did I did it. It's a bad way of being. And I see all of these like people on social media saying things like, if you want to succeed this year, lock yourself away for 6 months. Don't come out, don't talk to anybody. And I'm like, who
crazy.
and
What?
but the
Who
sad
does
part
that?
is somebody's watching that and they're going, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I gotta do. And I'm just like,
It's like,
that's not
no,
human,
it's not what
it's
you
not
got to
human at
do.
all. But
Lose your mind and your life. Like,
yeah,
no.
absolutely. But we've been, like you said, we've normalized that in order
Normalized
to
it.
to achieve, you have to sacrifice all and you have to give up all. And it puts us in a position. And what I always say is that, and I think you said it earlier, so what if you get to the level that you want to get to? Matter of fact, there's a mystic by the name of Sadhguru, and he says, so what if you are effective in this world, yet a mess within yourself?
Exactly.
And, when I first heard that, I was like, okay, that makes perfect sense, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what's going on outside of you. If what's going on inside of you doesn't match that, you're still not going to be happy. You're still not going to be where you want to be.
100%. Because people forget that the purpose of their life is to be fulfilled within themselves,
Right.
not to yes, we want to take care of other people, but that's not the purpose of our life. That's
Right.
the overflow. The
Hmm.
purpose of your life is to learn how to fill your own cup first, to love yourself, to take care of yourself, to honor the life that God gave you.
Right.
Not to get all these things to impress other people, because other people don't really care at the end of the day.
No, not at
They're
all.
worried about themselves. And it's not also not just normalized, there's also that it's glamorized too. Like, oh girl, I'm booked and busy. I'm like, oh, that
Right.
sucks.
Right. It's like I'm not
Like
impressed.
you're
I'm not
booked and
impressed
busy.
by that.
It's like a badge of honor. I'm booked. I'm busy. I got this. I got this. I can't. Da, 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 I'm just going. I'm going. I'm going. And I'm like, well, that sucks. I'm like, I'm good. I'm in my flow. Things just come to me. I
Yeah.
make money overnight. I'm in my flow. I'm good. I always have enough time to take care of myself and everything else I want. I'm in my flow.
Yeah. Always say
You
when
know,
your peace becomes
hustle
your
and flow.
success,
I'm like, nope, just flow.
just flow. Yeah.
Flow.
When your peace becomes your success, everything changes. You know.
100%.
Yeah, when your peace and how you feel and being happy and being in the moment, when that becomes the height of your life and the height of your success, all of those other things will just be added unto you, and
Exactly.
it took me a while to figure that out and to get there. But the moment I got there, it was just this, it's almost like this burden just lifted because it was just like, I'm at peace. I'm happy. Like I'm cool. I'm not in a rush necessarily to do much, but it still gets done and it all still happens. But
Yeah.
I'm such a different person today where it's just like I just kind of flow.
Yeah,
you know.
that's the best place to be.
Yeah.
For me, I had a light bulb moment when I realized, oh, wait a minute, my happiness is enough.
Mm.
Wait a minute, my actual priority, and I live by this affirmation. I live by this mantra that my own well-being is my first and best priority at all times. And it's
Mm.
not selfish, it's not ego-based, it's not that mentality that like I'm just going to do me, I don't care about anybody else. It's not that.
Right. Right.
It's not that mentality. It's my own well-being, how I feel about me, taking care of myself, honoring my own divinity, taking care of my body, my mind, my spirit. That is my first and best priority, because taking care of myself is the highest form of gratitude to God for the
Yeah.
life that he gave me.
Absolutely.
Your life
Absolutely.
is a gift from God.
Yeah.
God gave you your life. So how dare I disrespect him by not taking care of it? If
Yeah.
I gave a child a gift and it broke the gift and didn't take care of the gift and knocked the gift around and ripped it up and didn't take care of it, I'd be like, wow, what an ungrateful child.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But
You're
if I
not
gave
you're
a
not
child
buying that child much more. Like
exactly. But if I gave a child a gift and that child took care of that gift, it let the gift rest when that gift needed to rest.
Mhm.
It showered the gift with love. It was compassionate. It was forgiving. It took care of it. I'm gonna be like, wow, you
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
appreciated the gift I gave you. Well,
Absolutely.
wow, look at how many more gifts I have to give to you. That's why when
It
you show appreciation for who you are and what you have,
absolutely.
everything else comes to you even more and easily. And
Yeah.
that's when you stop working for it. And that's when you get into a place where you attract it to you.
Yeah, absolutely. It brings the story up. I had a debate one year. I had a
Okay.
coaching client who was she's a pretty big pastor, has a pretty big church, a Christian pastor, and
Yeah.
just burnout, overwhelmed. Of course, she's always doing something in her ministry. And we're having a session. I said, listen, you gotta slow down. And she said, I won't say exactly what she said, but she said, in so many words, she said, you don't have my calling. She said, so you don't understand who I have to help and what I have to do. And this is bigger than me. And something just clicked. I said, well, the very book that you are basing your life off of, I said, if you look at it, watch how Jesus ministered. He did it. And then most of the time in the next sentence, and he went to the other side.
Yeah.
He went before the people and then he left. And I was like, that was the ebb and the flow. He was going before the people to do what he was supposed to do, and then he was going away to refuel and to recharge and to
Yeah.
make sure he was ready to do it again. I was like, but he's ebbing and flowing. And what I eventually got her to understand is that you're just ebbing. You're
Yeah.
just giving and giving and giving, but you're not breathing back in. And I was like, you're defying the laws of nature. We breathe in and we breathe out. To do either one without the other just doesn't work.
And also,
And
oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh no, you're fine. So yeah, that just brought that story up to me, and it was like, yeah, okay, so this is pretty divine of how we're supposed to be living anyway.
Exactly. And your call, and I get what she's saying. Again, it's that weird mindset people have,
Right,
but your calling is never greater than you.
right.
Your calling is great through your own greatness because
Mm-hmm.
you are so great, therefore your calling is so big.
Right.
Not the calling is big and therefore you're so great. No, 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 no. That's why you are the vessel of it.
Right.
That's why God uses you God uses you through the calling, not the calling through you.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
you can't ever put more into a container than what the container can hold. Therefore, the container is always greater than what it's containing,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you are the container, you're greater than it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
also, God sees you and your calling not less than the people you're helping.
Right.
Like your well-being isn't less important than the well-being of the people that you're helping.
Yeah. Yeah. That
You
makes
know,
sense.
you
That
can't be
makes
a
sense.
doctor and help people.
Yeah. Yeah. And and I had to come to grips with I serve, I don't save. You know,
Exactly.
I serve. I go do what I'm supposed to do, but I can't save you. I can't. That's not my
You can
job.
feed a
And I
person
think
water, but you can't make a drink.
absolutely. But I think when you mix that up and you start trying to save people, that's when it becomes a burden because now you're carrying something that you weren't meant to carry in the first place. So it's going to be too heavy. It's going to be overbearing because it wasn't yours to carry. And when I started realizing that even within my own coaching practice, because there were times to where I literally would tell one-on-one coaching clients, you can call me anytime outside of
No,
sessions.
no, you
Yeah,
cannot.
I said that.
It's
And
called
and
boundaries.
and everything in me, even repeating that I said that at one time, cringes because I'm like,
Goodness,
how did
that's
I ever say that? Yeah, because people really will take you up on that. And I
yeah, they
finally
will.
understood that's saving. Don't call me at 1 o'clock in the morning. Like I
No,
can't help you. Like I served you in the session. I'll serve you in all of the other things that are set up around this. But that's it. Like there's no saving. There's no calling me in the middle of the night with your issue or your drama. And I didn't understand that at first because I thought I'm here to help, but I didn't
right.
understand what that word help really meant.
Exactly. Yeah, the help is to support and guide, not to rescue and save. Because if
Mm-hmm.
you have a savior and rescuer complex, then you're actually working in delusion because you cannot control anybody. Literally, the only person on this earth you have the actual power to control is yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
if you think you have the power to save somebody else, you're actually working out of an illusion, the
Very
illusion of
true.
control and the delusion that you can actually save somebody else. And then
Right.
it also goes into like God complex.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not God.
Right.
It's in me and I'm of God, but I'm not
Right.
God.
Right. Right.
So, and it's not my place. God can work through me,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not a substitute for God. I am a vessel of God,
Absolutely.
you know?
Absolutely.
And so, and then we also have to honor our own humanity. you
Mm-hmm.
know yes, God lives in me, but I'm also having this human experience as flesh and blood Candy,
Right.
and with flesh and blood comes limitations,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and boundary setting. And I used to like thought I knew what boundaries were, had no idea, because I used to be super codependent, but now I'm like, no, I got my boundaries together. Like for
Right.
me, I think boundaries is the space where I can love myself and love you at the same time, when I'm
Absolutely.
no longer sacrificing my health and my safety, my mind, who I am, my well being, calling it loving you or
Right.
helping you or saving you, you
Mm-hmm.
know? But
Yeah.
I can help you and I can support you and I can love you. But I also need to help support and love myself. And a boundary is a space that lets me do both at the same time.
Absolutely. And that made me think about my clients, my working moms, because they will
Yeah.
say that, but when it comes to those kids, then it's kind of like, okay, all bets are off. But what I
Mm-hmm.
have to help them realize is that you even have to have boundaries around the kids as well. You have to have boundaries of how
100%.
many activities can they be in, how many things can you go to this week realistically. Like,
Mm-hmm.
is that really attainable? Is that going to burn you out? You have to have those boundaries even around the people that you most love, the most in this world, because a lot of times it's easy to set boundaries around friends, associates, things like that, but those people that you feel truly attached to, sometimes it's harder. But those boundaries, they exist for everybody, no matter who it is,
100%.
even if it's your own child. You have to practice this first law, and that's self-preservation. Because if you don't preserve you, then you cannot help anybody else.
Yeah, and also I think two things Kevin, when we're talking. One, yes, we have to have boundaries with the people we love the most, but we sometimes forget to have boundaries within ourselves. Like,
True.
what are our own personal boundaries? Like, what are you committing for yourself? Maybe you have your own boundaries that you want to say to yourself, like, I'm gonna stop drinking, or I'm gonna drink less, or I'm gonna stop smoking, or I'm gonna start doing this. So if you betray your own personal boundaries and goals for how you want to love yourself and take care of yourself, then you'll probably betray your boundaries and goals with other people too, because how
True.
you treat yourself is always reflected in your other relationships. And
Hmm.
then I also think what's also powerful about what you're saying with mothers doing boundaries with their children, just like you said, you watched your mother, work herself to death, and then you grew up to work yourself to almost death.
Yeah,
Because you have to remember your children are watching. So
absolutely.
what you're showing your child is, oh, being a good person means sacrificing myself. Oh,
Yeah,
being successful means working myself to the bone. Oh,
right.
being a good mom, being a good parent means, not being happy, not having your own life, not being fulfilled, not knowing who you are, not having your own hobbies and fulfilling yourself and having a sense of who I am, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
That so your children are watching. And are you
absolutely.
teaching them that in order to be a quote good person, you have to be a doormat. You have to be codependent. You have
Yeah,
to work yourself to death. You can never say no. You have to always be giving. You can't think about your own well being. Is that what you really want to teach your children?
yeah.
Because they're
No, I'm sure
watching
you don't.
and then they copy and then they grow up and they mimic.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
why that's the essence of a generational curse. You see what you grew up in, and then you grow up and you mimic it. Your children see what you grew up in, they grow up and they mimic it. That's when people say this type of abuse runs in the family, this type of alcoholism runs in the family, this type of mental illness runs in the family, or that's just how we are, that's just how mama is, or whatever the case, that's how daddy was, Uncle John,
right,
whatever.
right.
It's the generational curse,
Yeah, yeah.
because
And
it's
you have
just
to
rinsing
unlearn
and
some
washing and
things.
repeat. You have
Yeah,
to heal. And when you heal it and you stop and you choose differently, that's actually how you break a generational curse, is
yeah,
through your
very true.
own personal healing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I always say you have to unlearn some things if you plan
Mm-hmm.
to move forward in a different way. And one of the biggest things, the biggest mentalities, especially for working moms, is when you have kids, the world tells you or society tells you it's not about you anymore.
Yeah, it's all about the kids now. I
It's not
can't
about you
sacrifice.
anymore. Right. And you cannot internalize that. You have to unlearn that statement,
Yeah,
because if you believe that, then you believe that at that moment, your life is over and it's all about somebody else. And what you soon find out is that's probably one of the biggest myths that anybody could have ever, perpetuated. So I
yeah.
always tell people there's a lot of things and I usually go through with people and have them recite to me, like, what does it mean to be a mom? What does it mean to
Mm-hmm.
be an entrepreneur? And I have them go down all of these things that it means. And I pull out those things of, we got to get rid of that. We got to get
Yep.
rid of the way you think about that, because those are the building blocks that are causing you to continue to go in that same direction. So
Yeah, and think
yeah.
about it. Like, that's just nothing but the patriarchy to control the guilt, blame, and shame.
Hmm.
Because a man, you would never tell a man your life is over now that you're a father. I've never heard
Right.
that before.
Never.
Never heard that before. Or it'll be like, oh, now you got to go out and get it to provide or whatever. You got to
Yeah.
really focus on your career now, which is still yourself and what you're
Hmm.
doing and fulfilling your hopes and your dreams. But to a mother, oh, well, now it's all about the kids, because what
Right.
being a good mother is sacrificing yourself and everything else for your kids.
Hmm. Yeah.
And again, like
Absolutely.
you said, it's unlearning. It's I don't know if this is a word, but it's unnormalizing the dysfunction, because it's
True.
actually dysfunctional. It's
Yeah.
dysfunctional and it's unhealthy to have that
Absolutely.
mindset that now anything outside of you, your life is now over and you have to surrender and sacrifice your entire life. Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Yeah. And the good sign is that I do believe that a lot of people are coming to this mentality
Yeah.
of, I do have to take care of me. I do understand that putting me first is subsequently putting everybody else first because I'm taking care of me in a better way. Therefore, I have, more to give. I can give the excess out of the cup versus what's in the cup. And, as much more as there's work to be done, I think people are learning that, I got to come up with some routines. My thing is just to give people practical things, strategies that they can start practicing every single day so that
Yeah.
they're not just relying on, like we said before, going on vacation or going to the spa. And those things are great, but those aren't things that you do every single day. They're not daily routines for the most part. So just giving people other practical things that they
What are
can
some
do every.
examples of those daily routine stuff?
Of course, you mentioned one of them. One of them is meditation. I teach a lot about meditation. I call it from a very simple standpoint because, for me at one point, meditation just sounded foreign. I was like, man, how? Like, people was like, just sit. I'm like, I'm sitting, but this ain't working for me. So I've come up with some ways that makes meditation extremely simple. I talk about one of the strategies of getting rid of the fear. And how I start with people on getting rid of the fear is learning to interrupt the negative thoughts.
Okay.
Thoughts when they come up, how to speak something that's contrary to that thought to interrupt that thought. I also talk about these 3 E's that I have people pay attention to every single day: your exposure, your environment, your experiences. Those things feed you. So what are you exposing yourself? Are you exposing yourself to more of, it's all about the kids now, or like you said, in
Mm-hmm.
order to be a good mom, or this is just what moms do, or in order to be an entrepreneur, you can't stop. Are you exposing yourself to more of that? Because that's feeding to the inside. That's going to create the thoughts. Then we're going to have to work on more so of stopping those negative thoughts. So I talk about a lot of things that just help people pay attention to things every single day. I'm doing a 21-day challenge right now with just a
Oh,
few
good for you.
clients.
Yeah.
And the challenge is about not referring to or talking about anything that's not unfavorable in your life right now. And if
Love
you
that.
have to mention it in any subject matter, you have to figure out a way to speak about it in a favorable manner as if it's already resolved. Because
Mhm.
the goal is after these 21 days, you don't entertain or give your attention to the things that you don't want. That's a big part of the psyche and what goes on within, which causes the chaos, which eventually causes the stress and causes all of those things that we don't want to deal with. So a lot of very practical things that are, pay attention to this. And again, my favorite word in the world is practice. We practice these things, we come back, we talk about what did work, what didn't work, and we just keep building upon that. But the course kind of lays out a bunch of different things to just start practicing and paying attention to on a daily basis.
Love that. Thank you so much, RJ. I know
Yeah,
my
thank
cup is
you.
full and overflowing after our conversation. So I just have
Absolutely.
2 more questions for you. One, what is one thing, if we got nothing else out of our time together, what's just one thing you want to leave us with? And then also, where can we find you? Where can we connect with you? And where can we find you and get your books and your coaching and your 21-day challenge and all the great stuff?
If you got nothing else, make you a priority. I know we've heard it before. It sounds good. It's cliche. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. But when I say make, when I say make you a priority, ask yourself every single day, did I love on me? Did I take care of me? In the midst of everything that you did, build a business, go to work, cook, feed kids, ask yourself, what did I do for me? And if you can honestly say that you did nothing for you, even if it was just 20 minutes of quiet time by yourself, then I want you to start changing that. Every single day, something has to be done for you.
Love
Something
it.
has to be done to promote you. Something has to be done to love on you. Something has to be done to heal you. And you have to tell yourself, it's not that I don't have time to do it because I can make the time because I'm resting in the fact that whatever time that I'm taking, this higher power will take care of whatever it is that I'm not doing in that moment. And you just have to take that moment for you every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as where you can find me at rjhodgesspeaks.com. And you can also find me at RJ Hodges Speaks on all social media platforms. And one more place is my main website, which is artofmasteringyou.com.
Great. And I will also have everything linked down below in the description box and the show notes. So, for everybody watching, thank you so much. And also, if you're listening on our podcast platforms. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, rate, and review. And of course, if you need extra support, check out all of my courses down below, and also grab the self-love journal, and also book some one-on-one coaching time if you just need some extra support. And as always, be sure to share this with a friend, because your journey to self-love and self-worth is always better with a little bit of support and community. So with that, you guys, I love you. And as always, take care of yourself and each other. We'll see you next time, guys. Hold on one sec.
Welcome to Sugar Pills, a practical guide to self-care, where your host, writer, actor, and producer Candy Washington helps you live a more joyful life with a cheeky dash of pop culture news. Be sure to subscribe, leave a 5-star review, and join the conversation on Instagram @Candy Washington. Let's go!